Many neighborhoods invest thousands in a physical security gate, assuming it is enough to keep the community safe. Without active intelligence monitoring who comes and goes, an open gate is just an open door. To fix this, HOA boards often spend heavily on license plate recognition cameras, hoping to capture the details needed to protect residents and community assets. Then an incident happens. A car is broken into, or a facility is vandalized. The board goes to check the footage, only to find the camera missed the plate entirely, or the angle is completely useless for law enforcement. Relying on a single snapshot at the entrance creates a blind spot for everything that happens once a vehicle moves past the gate. Buying a camera does not automatically buy you security, especially if the chosen system is structurally limited by the way it's sold and operated. Most standard license plate cameras operate on a subscription model. You pay an annual fee to keep the devices active and store the footage on the vendor's cloud servers. On the left, a rented system locks a single camera into a vendor ecosystem, dependent on their servers. On the right, an owned Peach Whiz intelligence network feeds multiple community cameras into a local hub. The community owns the hardware, drives, and data, removing the middleman. Making this structural shift requires a choice. You have to weigh the total control of an owned network against the higher initial cost of purchasing the hardware outright. The hardware you select at the beginning ultimately decides whether your community dictates its own security, or if you are merely renting it. When evaluating these systems, HOA boards have to work within the strict realities of operating budgets and reserve funds. This chart tracks the 5-year total cost of ownership. The red line represents a standard subscription model. It starts relatively low, but with typical fees around $3,000 per camera every single year, that line climbs steeply and never stops. Now look at the blue line, which represents an owned AI network. It starts much higher on the graph in year 1, representing the initial capital expenditure to purchase the system outright. After that first year, the operational budget for the owned system flatlines. There are no mandatory annual licensing fees to keep your own cameras running. By year 3, the lines cross. From this point forward, the owned system becomes mathematically cheaper, while the rented system continues to consume funds. Proposing this to a board requires navigating a political trade-off. It is often easier to pass a recurring operational fee than it is to get approval for a large, one-time reserve expense. The lower initial price tag of a subscription might feel safer today, but it guarantees a permanent, unavoidable drain on the community's financial resources over the life of the hardware. The hidden cost of these subscriptions extends past the financials. It restricts how you handle your own evidence. Most subscription vendors enforce a strict 30-day limit on cloud storage. After a month, your footage is permanently deleted. In reality, vandalism or property damage might not be discovered or reported for several weeks. By the time management reviews the logs, the critical video files are already gone. Using a local or hybrid storage approach solves this. It allows the community to set its own retention policies, storing footage for months if needed, and keeping historical records intact. Taking on that level of data ownership means the HOA assumes the legal and technical responsibility for securing the servers. You must implement strict role-based access controls. This ensures resident privacy is protected, and footage is only viewable by authorized personnel. Taking on that responsibility ensures the community dictates the timeline of an investigation, rather than losing evidence to an arbitrary server limit. An owned network allows cross-camera tracking. As this vehicle drives through the neighborhood, the system tracks it continuously from one zone to the next. A single snapshot at the front gate tells you a car entered. Property-wide tracking tells you exactly where that car went and what the driver did while inside. AI behavioral analytics constantly scan this movement, instantly detecting anomalies like a vehicle tailgating through a gate or someone loitering near a restricted amenity. When an incident is reported, the network reconstructs the timeline automatically. It traces the offender's exact route from the entrance, past the clubhouse, to the exit, timestamping every single node. This eliminates the need for property managers to spend hours scrubbing through disjointed video files. The network compiles the entire sequence into a single cohesive evidence package. Achieving this level of visibility requires expanding the physical camera footprint well beyond the main entrance to cover intersections and common areas. Installing those extra nodes increases the initial labor, cabling, and overall complexity of the project. But committing to that expansion transforms isolated cameras that simply observe the street into an active investigative network. Choosing between a recurring service and permanent infrastructure forces a decision about long-term control. For HOA boards, this approach eliminates the unpredictable, compounding operational fees that slowly drain reserve accounts. For property managers, it guarantees a reliable way to reconstruct an incident with comprehensive evidence without worrying about cloud deletion. While the Peachwiz system solves severe operational headaches, it demands a mature commitment from the community to actively manage the hardware and strictly enforce privacy protocols. To make the right choice for your neighborhood, look at this decision tree based on community size and budget. If you manage a small community with no amenities and zero reserve capital, a basic subscription camera might be your only viable option. But if you have high traffic, valuable shared assets, and a board exhausted by third-party vendor lock-in, upgrading to an owned AI network is the practical choice. Stop comparing potential camera systems based purely on resolution. Start evaluating them based on who actually controls the hardware and the data it captures. Effective security requires a shift from passive gate recording to active ownership of the intelligence protecting the neighborhood.